Is the Disney Wish really crossing the Atlantic in 2027? And if it does, what does that mean for us? What's the experience on a Triton Wish class ship compared to the Magic or Dream class? Hi folks, I'm Jules Phillips, and I'm going to break down the clues that point to the Disney Wish crossing the pond in 2027. Hi guys, so let's talk about what sparked the rumours. So big Disney announcement. So Disney Cruise Line dropped the long awaited itineraries for late 26 and early 27 yesterday, and a few breadcrumbs jumped out. There was a visible gap for the Wish in late April. The usual May transatlantic window lines up perfectly with that pause. And community chatter points to dry dock maintenance for a period in Brest in France, straight after an eastbound transatlantic crossing. So those pieces together don't equal confirmation. Obviously, Disney Cruise Line would need to confirm. So at the moment, it is speculation, but they do make a 2027 east-westbound transatlantic scenario possible. So clues from the community. So I'm going to take a few quotes here from chatter online. Okay, someone says, okay, I do think the Wish is coming over. There are no Wish cruises in May that I can see, and the Dream is doing a repositioning from San Juan to Port Canaveral in April. Either that or it's the Fantasy in 2027. So we had the Fantasy last year, which we kind of went on the transatlantic, which was amazing, and I loved it. The Fantasy is an incredible ship and lots of people's favourites, but I would love to explore the Wish. So we'll see. Someone else says, okay, it's safe to assume the UK is getting the Wish in 2027. The Dream is doing the Bahamian cruises into June 27. And the Wish doesn't have any sailings after, they say the 16th of April, but someone else goes on to say that it's actually the latest sailing they can see is the 22nd and 25th of April. They go on to say, that's a Sunday, 100% think it's the Wish. Someone else says that the Dream and the Fantasy are both listed as doing cruises until very late in May. So fingers crossed, because, you know, the transatlantic cruises normally go quite early May. In fact, our sailing this year was May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. And we had the best Star Wars sail away party ever. And it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, basically if the Dream and the Fantasy are both listed as doing cruises until late May, again, it points to the fact that they may not be free to do a transatlantic. So lots of things pointing in that direction. So eastbound and westbound transatlantic possibilities, and, you know, just speculating and having fun, guessing, you know, what might happen. So an eastbound normally goes in spring, you know, based on historic patterns, 13 to 14 nights. For us this year, it was 13 nights. For the Dream next year in 26, it's 14 nights. We got a Castaway Cay stopover, whereas next year on the Dream, no Castaway Cay or Lighthouse Point, which is a bit of a shame actually, because for us Brits, it's lovely. We love a Disney Island, but you know, it's not to be. But I think that maybe they get an extra, you know, kind of a stop in a port or something. So you do get lots of sea days, which is fantastic. Ours this year, we had obviously the Castaway Cay, we had 2 Portuguese and 2 Spanish stops, the last one being Barcelona, which was obviously where everyone disembarked. So that was great. Lots of character meet and greets, you know, lots of, you know, kind of so many activities. I mean, it's fantastic. Everyone says, oh, is there, you know, are there enough activities to do on the transatlantic? Yes, loads. And in fact, you can see in my transatlantic vlogs, every day I list out the navigator screenshots that shows you basically all the activities that you can do every day. So I'll attach those in the comments so that you can see the transatlantic cruise series on the Disney Fantasy. But back to potential transatlantic on the Wish. So westbound TA, normally late summer, autumn or fall. Kind of reverse flow with warm weather cools near the end. Obviously it gets cooler from Europe and goes, you know, hotter as you get close to the States, often including Bahamas stop before returning stateside. So expect cooler mornings, time changes, better time changes than the eastbound, to be fair. We were quite tired on the eastbound at points because the clocks kept going forward, so we lost time, whereas essentially you get 25-hour days on the westbound, so it is kind of like better for sleep patterns and stuff. You know, and obviously on both east and west, you kind of get merch menus that are unique to the transatlantic crossings. So moving on, potential European itineraries. So if the Wish were to spend part of the season in Europe, there are, high demand runs that generally, kind of Disney Cruise Line release. So for example, Norwegian Fjords, 7 to 9 nights, which is beautiful, waterfalls, scenic cruising days, cooler temperatures, so pack layers. British Isles, Western European, 5 to 7 nights, mix of Ireland, Scotland, England, and lots of culture heavy days there as well. So Western Mediterranean, 6 to 8 nights, city hopping, lots of art, food, beach time, with lots of port transfers, whichever kind of when you go on. And then there are sometimes, 1 or 2 longer, one-off, so 10 to 12 nights, kind of Greek islands, Italy, that kind of, those kind of things. So we would expect to see something similar to that again if the Wish comes over. So pricing and when to book, if Disney Cruise Line do say that the Wish is coming over to Europe, I think there will be a mad scramble of people to get on there because it's new and shiny. We haven't seen her over in Europe before. Disney pricing is dynamic and it's usually the highest closest to sale date. Your best book is to book as soon as you can are able to possibly book. If you've got Castaway Club status, depending on your status and what tier you are, you can book sooner. So you can get the kind of your favourite cabin. You kind of get preferential timing if you like. Be ready to alternate your cabin categories. So sometimes you might want to step up or down if it's cheaper than expected, or more expensive than expected. Decide to have, if you have a placeholder handy, you can lock something in quickly and you can adjust it later. So another top tip to grab a spot. Having said that, on some cruises, there are closer to sale date, there are some GTY categories. So in other words, a guaranteed stateroom. You don't get to pick your individual stateroom, but you get a preferential price because Disney will just say, we'll give you this kind of maybe it's an inside cabin or a veranda, we'll give you this type of cabin, but we won't tell you which one it is. We'll tell you close to the time when we kind of know what's booked and so on. So because of that, you get a preferential rate, which is great. Okay, let's talk about potential dry dock for the Disney Wish coming over. Dry dock is at Brest in France. What could it include for the Disney Wish? Again, speculation, but just fun. So I think my opinion is, and it might be right or it might be wrong, Disney might surprise me, but the Wish is a nice, relatively new spanky ship. It's not old. It's not as old as the, the Magic or the Dream class ships. So I would be surprised with any major renovations. The Dream and the Fantasy have, the Dream has undergone and the Fantasy is about to undergo renovation on the funnel suite. So where Edge used to be in the funnel, Disney have now turned it into a funnel suite. So Edge is moving next door, if you like, going to be buddying up with Vibe, and they're also going to have the benefit of the outside kind of like mini hot tub swimming pool, kind of the Hidden Mickey swimming pool out there. I don't think that will happen on the Wish. I would imagine, but if anyone knows differently, let me know. I'd love to know. Things like technical maintenance, required inspections, perhaps, because the ships have to tick boxes after so many years and so on. Things like soft goods like carpets, upholstery, lighting touch-ups, that kind of stuff. Technical updates, maybe show systems, signage, connectivity, all that jazz, and potential small layout tweaks for guest flow. Also, but maybe venue changes, things like that. The other thing that the Fantasy is probably going to get upgraded, put my teeth back in, upgraded with is, I believe that the quick service got changed on the Dream, and I believe that might be happening with the Fantasy as well. So, there might be slight tweaks, based on customer feedback on the Wish. So maybe Disney will do that now, or it might just be minor tweaks, kind of very, routine maintenance type stuff. So here's the fun stuff. The Wish versus the Magic. Let's do that again. The Wish versus the Magic and Dream and Fantasy. I'm going to do that again. I keep getting that wrong. So the Disney Wish versus the Disney Magic, the Disney Dream and the Disney Fantasy. There we go. I got it. So overall, what you'll feel on the Wish. Okay, I've not been on the Wish, but this is just my research. So I've got my notes here. So I'm just going to kind of go through bit by bit, and I'm really excited. Right, here's a rundown of what European cruisers would notice on the Disney Wish versus the Magic, the Dream and the Fantasy. So the Wish is the newer Triton-class ship. It's often called the Wish-class ship now, but its code name when it was being developed was the Triton-class, and I think those two terms are used pretty interchangeably. So it's a kind of a bigger visual wow. The Grand Hall, let me say that again. The Grand Hall has got, dramatic lighting, it's heavier IP theming and upgraded family spaces. So you get, modern rooms, immersive entertainment touches and excellent casual dining. Okay, the trade-offs. A weaker adults only pool than the Dream and Fantasy. The Fantasy and Dream have, satellite falls for adults and, absolutely fantastic. I did not have time to experience satellite falls on a 13-night transatlantic cruise because I was so busy filming and I was so busy with the kids and having a blast. I didn't really get some moment time, but I don't begrudge it. But the Fantasy and the Dream do have an excellent adults only area. Also, the Wish has got fewer outdoor spaces. It's moved indoors to the Hero Zone. So things like Goofy sports deck and stuff, no, all in the Hero Zone now, folks. And there's also there's the midship detective agency on the Fantasy and the Dream. But it's got a different name on the Wish, which I can't remember right now. Stick it in the comments if you can tell me if you remember. But rather than using the midship detective agency kind of cards where you stand in front and use that as a kind of practical thing, you use your phones. Okay, so it's kind of less prop driven and more phone driven. You literally stand there. Your phone is the prop, I guess. That's probably the best way to say it. So that's the kind of overall vibe, of it. So ship spaces and cabin and design. So what's different on the Wish? So the Grand Hall doubles as basically as a performance space. It's got lighting effects and, there's a fantastic show at the end of the night where, the Cinderella themed atrium, the Grand Hall really comes alive and, it looks incredible. The ship-wide art kind of mixes story pieces with behind-the-scenes displays, and the cabins are brighter with the TVs angled, kind of to the grown-up bed, to the adult bed, if you like. So pros, so fresh, immersive, the lobby moments, like I say, the shows, modern room layout, the strongest Disney magic feel of the four. According to a lot of people. So the negatives, the cons, if you like. So you lose the Dream Fantasy's interior magic porthole, which I'm going to say that again, interior magic porthole. There you go. Which we loved on the Disney Fantasy because we stayed in an interior cabin because for Max, I wanted him contained, and the magic porthole was perfect because we felt like we were looking out, and it was indeed magic. So that was great. Don't have that on the Dream and the Fantasy, but there is beautiful artwork there instead. So also fans of the older classic look on the Magic may find the Wish more IP forward. So in other words, if you like that, the grand, kind of classic, the years of transatlantic crossing, kind of that harks back to times past. That's kind of more your Magic and your wonder. The Wish is definitely more, kind of modern and kind of clean and IP forward facing, basically. So section 3, recreation. So things like pools, slides, spa, fitness, sports, kids, ship games, stuff like that. So what's different on the Wish? There are more family pools, and the AquaMouse is like a story coaster, so really look forward to going on that. The Hero Zone, as I say, replaces most of the open air sports courts, and the adults only pool is a weak spot compared to the Dream and the Fantasy. So pros, best family pool variety. AquaMouse is obviously, kind of a headline ride. Bigger fitness footprint. Kids clubs win, Fairy Tale, Hall, Imagineering, Lab, slide entry from the Grand Atrium. I mean, come on, who doesn't love that? That's amazing. So cons, as I say, yeah, adult pool, it's behind the Dream and the Fantasy. So again, satellite falls and better layouts. Almost no outdoor sports compared with the Dream and the Fantasy. The rainforest spas, it's been said, isn't as strong as the Dream and Fantasy's outdoor hot tub setup. I didn't get a chance to go in there with my kids because kids are obviously not allowed in there anyway, and I just didn't have time to go in there. But it is something I would love to go and do on the Fantasy or one of the Disney Cruise Line ships at some point and get some mummy time. Yeah, and again, as I say, the ship game, the midship detective agency type thing is phone based. And that really, I think, it's still story driven and still, heaps of fun. So one of the things that we loved on the Disney Fantasy was the midship detective agency. Max absolutely loved chasing all over the ship, making me chase after him all over the ship and finding all the clues and just living his best life. It was, kind of the kinesthetic stuff together with tech and together with solving clues. He was a happy little chappy. Right, so let's move on to entertainment. So that's theatre, characters, deck parties, immersive hosts. So what's different on the Wish? So they've got layered immersive hosting. So the Royal Storyteller, oh my gosh, I'm going to put my teeth back in. So the Royal Storytellers. So I think that's Coriander and Sage. And I think, that there may be other storytellers that look similar to Coriander and Sage and pop up, in a variety of different situations. There's a house Disney jazz band and a modernised pirate deck show with Pirate Red and live band. Pros: more ship-wide surprise and delight. Sail Away is a favourite. New Sail Away party, fantastic. And the costumes for the new Sail Away party, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Pirate Night feels cinematic with live music. Cons: the Wish sits behind the Dream and Fantasy's best shows in many fans' hearts. If you that really depends. I'm going to say that really depends on you and on the show. That's really down to personal choice, really. So I'm going to move on to dining. So dining is still rotational. You've got more shows on the Wish, which is great, which is surprising actually, because I thought there might be more interactive shows on the Fantasy, but I'm going to say, I know that you've got Animator's Palette on the Dream class ships, and you have like the turtle kind of show, but it's not the same as live entertainment type shows, which actually they even had on the Magic with the Tangled show, but you do on the Wish. So what's different on the Wish for dining? So 1923 is a standout kind of venue. World of Marvel, obviously, is definitely interactive. And Arendelle, again, brings live character shows. So the World of Marvel, I suppose it is a show. I suppose because it's not a live show in terms of actors and people, on the stage doing things, singing and joining in. But I think the Marvel, I suppose, is the new alternative to the Crushes show in Animator's Palette, isn't it? But it feels more interactive still because you've got the little gizmo on the table where you don't press the button, So it all just feels much more interactive, I think, probably. Let's have a look. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, Marston Market replaces Cabanas with themed stations. Festival of Food upgrades, pool deck, quick service. Adult dining is Paolo Steakhouse, which is the same on the other ships, but you get Enchanted and you also get the Rose. There are also multiple themed cafes on the Wish, the Wishing Star and the Enchanted Sword, and paid sweet shops. And on the Wish, it's Inside Out. Okay, so pros. 1923 is one of the fleet's best kind of included dinners. Festival of Foods is a strong quick serve mix, and the adult dining, as on all the Disney ships, is top tier. And the themed cafes and lounges add charm that we wouldn't have seen on those particular themes before. So cons: World of Marvel. I think some people said before on the Wish that it felt really noisy, that it was really tricky for the waiters to move around logistically. It was a bit tricky. But I've heard since that they may have put those things right. So also, I guess if you're not into Marvel, that might not be for you. But again, that's personal choice. And the Dream Fantasy loyalists may still prefer Remy over Enchanted. Okay, quick chooser. So if you are choosing with different things in mind, different objectives, you're coming from a different place. So if you're traveling kids or you want the newest wow for sea heavy crossings, the Wish. It's kind of got all the IP, it's got Marvel, it's kind of light, it's bright, it's big, it's got like massive space. Probably the Wish. And also if you just want something different. You know, I haven't seen the Wish, so how exciting, right? Plus, on a transatlantic crossing, one of the massive benefits, I think, is that you really do get to know the ship, even though I kept getting lost on the Fantasy, you know, kind of in the last days. I was still like, which way I'm going? But you get to really know the ship. You get to really know the cast, and you get to meet so many different people. You get to make loads of friends. So that's a real strength of the transatlantic crossing, plus all the activities, plus all the character meet and greets, plus, you know, kind of just all the regular activities. You know, that's not before you even get into that. So there are so many benefits. I'm going to do a separate vlog on all the benefits of transatlantic cruises. So that's if you're traveling with kids and families. So adults who prioritise quiet pool time, classic open air activities, probably I would say the Dream and the Fantasy is going to be more what you're looking for. But, you know, Satellite Falls, you know, kind of the adults only area, I'll put my teeth back in, you know, is fantastic. You know, Quiet Cove and Satellite Falls together, you know, tick, approved, Disney approved for adults for sure. That's probably, you know, kind of probably most adults travelling without kids might prefer those ships. If you disagree, put it in the comments. Tell me why. Tell you know, kind of let me know. So and again, fans of traditional kind of transatlantic cruising that hark back to previous days of, you know, kind of days gone past, I guess. You know, they might prefer the Disney Magic and the Disney Wonder, which are also kind of smaller, more intimate ships, and that might be for you. So right, that's my roundup of the Disney Wish coming to Europe. Is it likely to happen? We don't know. It's speculation. Would you like the Disney Wish to come to Europe? And if so, why? And if not, what ship would you like to come to Europe? I'm also keen to see the Disney Treasure, which is obviously a sister ship of the Wish, which is also a Triton-class ship. I'm going to link my transatlantic series on the Disney Fantasy in the comments. If you fancy following us, please like and subscribe. Little Max, my son, absolutely loves it when he sees the subscriber count go up. What's the saying? Kind of like Disney, when a baby laughs, a new fairy is born. Well, when we get a new subscriber, Max does this like mad little dance. So if you fancy subscribing and check it, you know, staying with us for the news on the Disney Wish, please do subscribe, leave comments. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are about transatlantics. I'm absolutely hooked on transatlantics. And I'll also pop in the comments some other things that we've got coming through on different series. So I'm still posting on Sundays the transatlantic series for the Fantasy, which was obviously quite rare because it was the first time that the Fantasy had come over to Europe, which was, you know, phenomenal. I keep banging on about it, but it was wonderful. What else is coming forward? Well, we've got another series for Disney World, so that is great. We stayed at Walt Disney World for 3 days. 4 days, 4 nights. Was it 4 nights? Yeah, one of the two. Anyway, we did 3 days in Walt Disney World. And so I had the boys with me for that. So we've still got that kind of vlog series to go out. And also we'll be talking about using the DAS facilities there and using DAS with Multipass as well, which was great. Obviously, Multipass is the paid for system and DAS is the system that you have to be approved by Disney in order to get the DAS. So that's that. What else is for? Oh yes. Okay. I have some, stay tuned because we also have some news. A member of this Phillips life, I'm just going to say we're expecting the pitter patter of little feet, and it's not who you might suspect. So subscribe, like, hit the button and stay with us, folks, and we will bring you more great content. you.